along with the IDRC, International Development Research Center in Canada, looking at the family laws in the Global South, essentially in Muslim majority countries and other countries, looking at the linkage between family laws and violence against women. We will be focusing in this panel on experiences from the field, experiences on women organization, doing advocacy, reform of family laws, the linkages, as I said, with violence against women, what has worked, what hasn't worked, looking at the complexities of the different contexts. We will have 4 speakers from the Women Learning Partnership partners in the Global South. Each will be discussing her own experience on working on family laws reform in her country. I'm delighted to start with a very, very good friend of mine, a lawyer and a human rights activist, the president of Sisterhood Is Global in Jordan, Lubna Dawany. Lubna is going to share with us for 10 minutes the experience from Jordan. Lubna, I will have to interrupt you in 10 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored and pleased to be with this panel and with your good selves. First, I would like to have an introduction about our situation in Jordan. As we have a flood of refugees, and most of them are women and children. The population of Jordan is 6 million, and we have more than 1.5 million refugees coming from Syria. Before that, we got refugees from Iraq, before that from Palestine, and now we have numbers of refugees from Yemen, from Libya, from many countries in the region, because it's as you can hear and see in the news, it's not going in a good direction. Wars is flaming everywhere, and people are flooding. And the highest price that ever is paid by women, because women are taking it the bad way, in crossing borders, in a very hard atmosphere in their new countries that they are refugees in, leaving their houses, having their men, children, boys, brothers, family members killed, or joining other organizations such as ISIS or others. So the conflict is becoming big, and the number of people who are going through hard times are becoming humongous, large numbers of people. Now, because we're having these refugees and these big numbers of refugees in Jordan, we are affected as country, as women and development, because we cannot go steady with our development since we have so many obstacles, and having so many refugees in Jordan is one of the greatest challenges that we are facing. However, we are trying to cope, and this opportunity I would like to urge all the countries that promised to support Jordan to continue supporting Jordan, because without this support, it will be more difficult for everybody, for the refugees and for us as nationals in Jordan as well. Besides, another one issue I'd love to mention about refugees and Jordanians, the international organizations and the big countries are supporting Syrians. They are poor, they don't have works, they have nothing, they left their families, their countries with no nothing. However, in Jordan we have poor people as well. We have neighbor children as well. We have people with, like children with no shoes, children with no schools, children with difficulties. And when the nationals see that all the effort is going for the Syrians, now we are creating a gap between the two nationals, and this is very dangerous, because as I see it, it's not going to be solved in like few weeks or months. It might take years. and we need to live together as national Syrians and Jordanians. I thought it's good to know this in order to take it into consideration whenever we are planning for development or for peace or for any other issue in the region. Now, coming for our main issue, which is the personal status laws for our families in Jordan. In Jordan, the majority are Muslims. However, we have a percentage of Christian families that are living since Christ was born in our land. We have personal status laws for Muslims, and we have like 6 courts and laws for Christians, like Orthodox, Evangelicals, Catholics, different types of Christianity issues. Now, Muslim men do marry Christian women. It is allowed. But Muslim women are not allowed to marry Christian men. This is by Sharia and it's forbidden. Now, this sometimes it creates some kind of sensitivity between the nation. Like, let me give an example. I have a case of a girl that called Farah. Farah was born in 1998. She's a Christian lady, girl, with a Christian groom. They were married, and then they went to Dubai to live. A couple of years, she was pregnant. She came back to Jordan, and it seemed that they have some kind of problems between the husband and wife. And he left her alone. She had the boy, she had the baby boy, and she was by herself. After a while, she knew that he converted to Islam. Now, when he converted to Islam, automatically the marriage bond is cut. She wouldn't convert as well, and she insisted on not having this marital contract with her ex-husband. However, what about the boy? They have a baby boy, and he was 4 years old. Normally, the custody is for the mother till the age of 18. But in Farah's case, her boy is 4 years old, and she can keep him only until he is 7 years old only. Now, this makes some kind of discrimination even between the Jordanian women. Why? I mean, how come if the husband is Muslim and the wife is Christian, she cannot keep her children for the same age, like 18 for everybody? Why? There's a big difference. And frankly speaking, she was worried because she wants to keep the boy, she wants to keep the son. Now, we reach a dead end. Either she converts or she will take the boy and disappear somewhere else. But this is one of the issues that we face. Having 2 religions in the same country and having more than one personal status law. I would like to mention another story for a lady who was married in Jordan. She's also Christian with her husband, and they left to the United States. In 20 years' time, they had problems, and they were divorced in the US. Okay? Now, her church back home, they would not recognize, they don't have divorce. So we have some kind of conflict. In the United States, she's divorced, while in Jordan, she's not. So this creates some kind of I don't know what to call it, but it's some kind of unstable marital life or unstable individuals in the same religion. Anyway, I would like to mention a couple of issues for the status law about early marriages and inheritance, because it's a very wide, big, many clauses in the law, and I cannot go in 10 minutes and all over the laws. But back in 2011, we had new laws about the age of children to be married. It was 16 before, and we lobbied to have it till 18. However, the judge, the Sharia judge, has the power to have the marriage contract for children from 15 to 18. It depends on his evaluation, if the girl is ready, if there's a benefit for her, and usually if she's an orphan or she's a poor girl from a poor family, they see that it's for her benefit. And you know, it's not stable. You know, each judge would see different things because it's not according to a specific criteria by law. So it's somehow vague. Now, and they would say that taking into consideration that the child will not go out of school. Now, could you imagine a child 15 years old getting married and going to school every day? It doesn't make sense. So I'm sure that she will skip school and she will start having pregnancies and she will start to be responsible about her house, her husband. You know, it's a big responsibility for 15 or 16 or 17 years old. What we asked for is to have a committee to decide for these girls if it's really important for this girl to get married between the age 15 to 18 and not keep it for one person to decide. Because after all, who is the judge? The judge has the same mentality from the society. And if the society sees it's okay that these girls will get married at an early age, then the judge will see this is very normal and it's acceptable. While as activists we say no, at least we need to have a criteria and not before the girl is 18. And imagine if the boy and the girl are under 18. They cannot elect, they cannot have a driver license, they cannot open a bank account, but they can't get married. So this is the dilemma of weird things happening. Now, for the inheritance, it is back home, it is not acceptable usually, and it's changing, but it took a long time and it is taking a long time. It's not acceptable that the girl would inherit, especially if it was land from her family. So they thought that the land is going to a stranger because her husband is a stranger. But they will never think that the wife of the man is a stranger as well. So the man, when he inherits the land, the wife also will benefit from the same land. However, usually they would take her into sudden times when she's sad and when she's mourning, and they would ask her to sign. And she says, usually she feels that it's okay if it's the father or the brother who she's going to inherit from died, so there is no value for materialistic things, so she would sign. But after a while, when she wake up, and she sees that she has nothing to live from, she has no land, she has no money, she has nothing, she will start asking for money or for anything from the things or from the amounts of money that she inherited, but she will find nothing. So we could lobby to have, by law, at least 3 months before she could sign any document, giving away the property or the money that she inherited. And I think this is a very good thing to do. 3 months are good for her to wake up and to see what her needs are and to decide whether if she wants to give away this land or this money or not. And also I have a story about a lady. She's now in her mid-70s, and her brother does not talk to her since 40 years. Because before 40 years, she wanted to inherit, and she accepted to inherit, and they were very angry with her, and they cut the relation with her. She took the money, but since that time, she's living out of these properties. Each time she has no money, she would sell one of the properties, and she's living in dignity. And she always say, what about if I signed and I left everything for the brothers? What would happen? Will anybody look after me? Will anybody give me any amount of money? It's a very difficult situation, and I don't think that life is getting very materialistic, and when the people have the money in their hands, it's very difficult to give it away. I mean, if she signs and she drops the properties and the amount of money, I'm sure she will be begging for money. But at the age of 75 now, although she cries every time she mentions one of the brothers, she cries in pain, because what she's asking, why did you leave me? Because I inherit. And up until this moment, since 40 years, he does not talk to her. And this is very cruel. Now, we're facing so many other issues. I would like to mention, of course, we face the violence against women at an early stage, like the fetus. Most of the families would like to have male children, male boys. So if they have the chance to choose, they will choose to have a baby boy, not a baby girl. And this makes like some kind of error in the society, having more boys or going against nature in demanding for boys and not for girls all the time. Also, it will stay in the teenage, in going through school, graduating, going into college. However, in Jordan we have a very high percentage of educated women. Women, most of them are college educated, high school, and even master's degrees. Okay. But in the workforce, our percentage is very low. It reached only, it's slowly down, it's only 12.8, and it's the lowest percentage in our region. Of course, we face the silence. Our ladies would go through difficulties in their marriages, in their relationships, and they will stay silent because of so many reasons. And we are trying to break the silence and let the women speak out so that other people or other women will take learned lessons from what's happening to our women. I would like to mention also one last story in the 2 minutes, if you allow me, about a girl who was married, and she was, her husband was using difficult and different things in torturing her, like using cigarettes on her skin, beating her, leaving her without food. And when she asked for divorce, her family would not agree. And because they thought that she will go against their will, and she will have a bad name for their family, so they wouldn't allow it. However, she went and got divorced. They took her. The story is very long, but to make the story short, they took her. They shot her like 30 shots. And after that, when she was in the ground, they called the brother. The uncles shot her. They called the brother and they asked him to claim that he's the one, because it's an honor crime, because he saw her with a man. And the brother did that. But when the ambulance came, they could know that she was still alive. And she lost one of her legs. And after that, they abandoned her. When she woke from the operation, no one of her family was around, and she was crying, very hard, and she was in pain because she needed the family, she needed her mother, she needed her sister, she needed somebody to be around her, but no one was there. I was there, and she started calling me mom since that time. And this lady, we faced a lot of issues. We would change houses, we change telephone numbers whenever they discover where she is. But we went on. She was a brave lady. She could work and earn her living. She used to cook and deliver the food, and she earned her living. And she was a strong, brave lady. Until this moment, she's alive. She's trying to cope with whatever she has. But it's very cruel to have such a thought that she should obey the decisions of the family and not decide for herself. I think I can go for hours, but thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I think we'll have time for questions and answers, and some of these things will come up again. I want to move to our wonderful colleague and WFP partner in Palestine, Soraida. Soraida is the head of the Women's Affairs Technical Committee. The situation in Palestine in terms of family laws is probably one of the most complicated, as we will hear from Soraida, her experience from Palestine. Please go.
Thank you, Lina. I know that the event is family law and violence reports from the field. But before going to the field, allow me to take you to a different place to set the context. I couldn't use the PowerPoint, and my title for today is Colonized Laws as Sources of Violence. So the context for us is very important because ours are colonized laws. When you are using, and you not using, yes, you are using, and then the laws that are being applied to you are not your laws, these are the laws of the colonizers, then there is the violence embedded. And there is also the struggle. A history in context, in our case, the Palestinian case, we have been until today using and applying laws of the Ottomans who stayed in our area for 400 years, and they were the first to codify the personal status law. Now, when we say family laws, is something, when we say personal status law in Arabic, is something a bit different. Personal status law is the person, is the law that will make the status of this person, something like this. Family law should be looking at the whole family. Although personal status law look at the whole family, but it's very much embedded in women or in the individuals. Then the British mandate was after the international conference after the Second World War, Sykes-Picot conference, and then they go and the conference decided that all our area will be divided. So some parts will be given to the British, and then the British mandate, the French mandate, so the Arab world was divided, French and the English mandate. I'm going to give the history very quickly so that you know why I say that colonized laws are sources of violence. Because this colonization context embeds and reinforces and gives violence from the beginning. And these are the laws that we are now dealing with. Then in the 1967, from 48 to 67, the Jordanian and the Egyptian laws come in place. The Egyptian laws in part of our land, that is Gaza, and then the Jordanian laws in what is called the West Bank. And then comes and in the 48, the Israeli occupation for the land of the 67, and in the 48, the United Nations decision to create a state of Israel in part of our lands. Look at this context. It's violent, is oppressor and oppressed and oppressive. So this is the context for hundreds of years. So it is a mentality that is being inherited. This is one of the core places where we stand when we talk about family laws. These laws, I say, our laws are laws that perpetuate violence, promote violence, reinforce violence, and those are not our laws. Those are the laws of the Ottomans, to start with, British, and then all as they say. At the same time, the contradictory idea is that having bad laws is better than having no laws. And here I would like to send my regards to a very beloved friend, Lina Abou-Habib, rest in peace. It was the first time that I heard this sentence. Bad laws are better than not having laws at all. I was against this idea. With the time, I realized, yes, for women, even bad laws will be better than no laws, because there are laws at least that there is something to hold on and to reform and to work with. No laws, it means much worse of where we are. In our history, it is a political, economical, social context, and these laws are there. It's not as, because until now we are not a state. We have a government, but we are not a state, and we have not been able to have family law, the personal status law done by the Palestinians themselves. So we are being governed by these laws that are very old laws. The Jordanian law was changed and have some changes in Jordan, but not in Palestine, with all that. So very quickly, in the political context, in 1991, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, signs an agreement with Israel so that part of our land will be put under control of Palestinian authority. With the Oslo Agreement, 1991, for 10 years, there was 10 years of serious building, because in the transitional period, it was supposed that we are building the coming from Palestinian state. It was serious work. It was 10 years of all sectors believing, everybody believed that what we are doing is building the state. So for us, for women, we learned that the timing where transitional periods exist, this is the time where women should get into the structures before the structures are finished. It is a transitional period. It might be chaos, it might be crisis, but it's transitional. So it gives a space. For us, this is what we really believe. This is our space. So this is where we rise very high the flag of reforming the laws. We are going to reform the laws, and the first law is personal status law. Everybody was ready. What we did in these 10 years, if I count in a scale from 1 to 10, it was, let's say, political participation of women was accepted, very much welcome, 6. Women governing higher posts, 6.5. Violence against women, half, 5.5 maybe. If I do the scale from 1 to 10 in this period, how we were able, as the women's movement, organizations, and everybody committed to change the culture and the mental and the ideology towards women, these were relatively higher marks. In 2000, 2001, and 2, then the Israeli occupation plane comes again and occupies part of the land where we were doing this kind of job. So it is again violence, militarization, that comes in place and takes and robs the spaces from Palestinian women. We need a space to talk, dialogue, to make our dialogue with even our society, and it was taken. So it was 10 years of serious work done with the women, During these 10 years, we were able to talk about legal reforms, to talk about civil law. We there and we talked about civil law, and we wanted to have choices. And one of the main ideas in the Women's Learning Partnership is leading to choices. Choices are fundamental for women, for everybody, but in this case for women. So we were working very hard, and we said, okay, the personal status law is based on the Sharia law. It's a religious law. Let's work on the civil law so that women will have 2 choices. With the change of the whole environment, then we went to work on the personal status law, and not reforming the whole law. We said, okay, part of this law, and this is where we are now. Not civil, not full law. We are trying to reform 5 articles of the present law. Strategies or lessons learned. We learned from others' experiences. For example, the Algerian woman, when in the transitional period we were asked, are you going to go back home? Because Palestinian women have been very active in the struggle for independence. And then when the time that everybody thought that the Palestinian state is coming, then they were asking us, are you going to back home? And we were very serious, no, we are not going to back home. We are going to stay where we are and doing what we are doing. So this is one lesson that one experience that we learned. Another experience is a Tunisian example where we know that political will can promote and make social change. Political will means when the president, when Bourguiba says, I'm going to put a law that will secularize the society, whatever is the price, and he puts the law, and then first and second and third generations are under this law, the culture changes. So it is when the political will is there and is encouraged enough to take these decisions. Moroccan example, we also took from the Moroccan example how big popular-based campaigns can change, or at least can make this kind of consensus for people, raising the awareness in a massive way. And the Moroccan women have very good examples there. What we also learned is that during that transitional period, there was a lot of talking about the coming Palestinian state. Sheikh Hamami said in one international conference, he said, the personal status law is one of the bridge between us, he means the religion authority, and the coming Palestinian authority. One bridge, if they touch the personal status law, they are burning the bridge. So, okay, this is the last castle for the religion authorities. So, we are playing in a very sensitive area where the legal bodies think that women have no place here. Only experts, legal experts, not activists. At the same time, authoritarian religious people, they think that this is their own area. It's not women's area, and it's not non-lawyers' area. We went there. We went to this area. We dared to play there, and this is what we are doing with personal status law reform. Our strategies, we also learned that when political will is absent, also when social agendas are not part of the building of the state, this is very dangerous for women. In transitional periods, social agendas should be very clear, not only political and economic agendas. We should talk, we should ask, we should enforce that a social agenda should be placed of any political change in the country, because this is where women's rights are, and this is where citizenship, this is where democracy is, inside the house, inside the state. So, in the project that we did, it was called the Model Parliament Project, we did a lot of education. We went and did a lot of raising awareness. There were formed local committees. Everywhere we will go, the organization and the participants will form a committee. And the minute the committee is formed, then this group has a space. And you cannot take the space from them. They will tell you what is the reform about and what to do. So you should listen to them. And this is what happened. There were local committees, and they were telling us, don't talk about this issue, we will talk about this issue. In the end of working 1 year in the areas and forming the committees, we ended up with a list of issues per area, because each area said what is the issue that they want to discuss. Opening public debates, very important, very risky, because anyone, it's a public space, anyone can get, but you should take the risk. You should prepare very well. Strategy, prepare very well, you and the others, and go to the public space. People will hear, and if your arguments are very well based on human rights, on values and principles, people will come with you. There was a coalition for the personal status law after that, and these coalitions are very important. It's not one organization, it's many organizations working together and taking the responsibility. In the strategies also, lessons learned is that the public sphere is ours. We should not go out of the public sphere. The minute that women were raped and sexual harassment in Egypt, it was a message telling us, go out of the public sphere. You have nothing to do in this sphere. The public sphere is for men. If you come to the public sphere, we will rape you or we will harass you. No, it is our space. And the more we are in the public sphere, the more we will be able to have our voices heard. Sometimes it's risky. Sometimes it's your integrity. When in Egypt, women were raped in the street, but it is about it. So the public sphere is ours, and this is what we should be telling to young activists. Don't go out of the public sphere, never, and whatever happens in the private sphere is private until it's violated. When it's violated, it is converted automatically to public. And this is essential when we do legal reform of family law. Another one is we should always be able, I don't like should, but we would like always to be able to generate hope. And this is what working in family law means. Family laws the family law is the core essence of our rights. It's about women's agency. Reforming family laws means getting our own rights in the private sphere to go to the public sphere. And this is also a lesson learned in this work that we have been doing. Human rights organizations, they think that they are gender neutral, and they say they are gender neutral, and they look at violations because they are violations. It's not right. We should engage with human rights organizations to take out the gender blind kind of work that they are doing. Yes, violations are gender-based. Your work in human rights should be gender-based also. In the raising awareness strategies, we also learned that committed facilitators make a change, make a difference. Any facilitator coming to the room, talking to any group of people or women, telling them about women's rights, she's not very much convinced, she's not very much committed, she doesn't feel that this is in her blood, it's her future, it's the future of other girls that she's talking about with them, people will not try to think what she's saying. She will not do click in their minds. Committed facilitators are essential in our struggle. Another lesson is that being participatory costs a lot because you give powers to the participants and then you have to negotiate. So you come as an organization or coalition with your powers, with your agenda, with your manuals, with everything. The minute you give the participants the power because you are doing participatory work, you will have to pay the price. We learn how to renegotiate what we were coming with the participants, but give power to the participants is very important. This means transparency and accountability. There is a lot of contradictions in our context, and I think that it's the time to think that when anything that you hear about our area and it's contradictory, remember that contradiction is within our process. It's not strange. Contradictions, contradictorious things in our context are original part of our lives, because the minute that for me, women's activists, I'm talking about the documents of the United Nations. I'm telling everybody, CEDAW, ESCR, Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, Political Convention, all the conventions, a Human Rights Declaration. The Human Rights Declaration, okay, was out from the United Nations in the 48, and in the 48, hundreds, thousands of Palestinians were out of the lands. First contradiction. I'm talking about a place that should be defending the rights, and in the 48, thousands of my people become refugees. In the 48 December, Human Declarations of Human Rights, the International Declaration of Human Rights. Contradiction. More contradictions. All these documents that Yes, I want CEDAW to be part of the local laws. I want ESCR to be part. I want all these international convenes to be part of the local law. And how come it's contradictory? You are criticizing them. Yes, I criticize them, and I will talk the international language, and I will go back to the first thinkers and philosophers of my area, and I will reread history and show that all documents in the United Nations are not bringing any new of these people, ancestors in my area. So this is this is a point where I am standing when I talk about international documents, because if I read and reread and go back and revise and see all these great thinkers of my area, my ancestors, nothing new in these documents of the United Nations. So it means, okay, this is a discourse that I will talk to all of you. It's not new to my culture. And this kind of discourse, I have to do this with a woman in my country. Lesson learned, very quickly, 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes long ago. Lesson learned, the media. We didn't know how much important is the media. From that time until now, we have been working very hard with the media, inside the media, and learning how to be media-minded person, with women. And one of the things that we are still discussing is there something called feminist media, women and the media, women in the media? In Motak we have a media department, we have a monthly newspaper, we have a weekly radio, and every year we talk with the media students, and they do a lot of films. We really learned that the media is important, should be alive, should be a tool that you have to learn how to use it and get into. And the media and the law and so many disciplines are obstacles for us. The media is very important. In the end, there are countless of individual success in our country. So many organizations making so many serious work from the heart. There are so many stories where the woman comes and says, if it wasn't for you, and this happens with all organizations, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know that this and this exists. I wouldn't save my daughter from getting married earlier. Countless of cases of individual success. But what we need is the structure to be changed. In the structure we find curriculum, in the school we find the media, and we find the political decision makers. I believe that we should check from time to time the structure. We should make the structures think twice. So checking the structure is doing something out of the ordinary. Everybody will look, everybody will say, what's this? This is crazy, what's happening? So this is making a click in the mind of the people who respect and who hold the structure for their own authority. We need to set the fire. We need to really to move the water when the water is still. In a place where the water is still, women's rights will not be able to move. Move the waters, because women's rights are everywhere, even there. Thank you.
Thank you, Soraida, for taking us so passionately into a very complex context. We're going to shift geographically and go to Pakistan with our partner organization from Pakistan, Rabia Al-Hadi, the Director of Advocacy and Eliminating Violence Against Women from Orad Foundation in Pakistan.
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Enshrined in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. These laws cover family matters such as marriage, divorce, and inheritance. And critical reforms in family laws are required, and it's a time that we should do such reforms to improve the status of women in the family. The Muslim family laws in Pakistan in 1961 brought some important reforms, but it neither bans polygamy nor it has proved deterrents against it. And to achieve legislative equality, women and men by the year 2025 requires concrete efforts to strengthen the constitutional guarantees for women's human rights. It's a systemic review, and many of the civil society organizations, they are struggling for it since long. 1961 ordinance, family law ordinance, since it was enacted, we are facing strong opposition from the orthodoxy of Pakistan, and they are continuously lobbying against it and pressurize the government to reword the ordinances, and there are many things they've been asking off and on to instigate a confrontation by making all sort of efforts to subjugate women. They also proposed to do away the registration of marriages and divorce, which was enacted in 1961 ordinances. That would cause confusion in the marital status of women. Many men may verbally divorce and women and then deny at the same time that we didn't divorce, and they were convicted under the allegation of zina ordinance under the Hudud law of Sharia. On the other hand, and many separated women claiming maintenance can be defeated from doing so, the statement of her husband claiming that he had already divorced her. So that's how she is being deprived from inheritance right as well. There are about 51 prevailing family laws in Pakistan, out of which 7 including dissolution of marriage. But none of them addressing the divorce. Women are almost completely silent about the subject of inheritance and divorce. So immediate and urgent amendments needs to be done in this area. Amendments to the family laws were essential as these laws have been neglected for years in the country. Only small procedural amendments have been done so far. It is due to the efforts of the civil society and the women's movement inside the country. According to the Muslim Family Law 61, vocal utterances of divorce is not legal. Man has to submit the divorce uttering of statement provided to the local council or district registration offices, and after that, following the provision, the copy is then provided to the wife, and after this notice it is provided to the authorities, both the husband and wife, giving them an opportunity to attempt reconciliation by the family courts. If there is no reconciliation within 90 days of framework, following the initial registration of the notice, then the divorce is confirmed and enacted. But the Council of Islamic Ideology in Pakistan, which is the major hurdle we can say in access to justice of women cases, recommendatory body was formed under the Zia regime in Pakistan and set up to access all the laws enacted in the country has to be reviewed according to the Sharia compliance, and ask for the criminalization of verbal pronouncement of divorce. Given the legal realities, instead of issuing a statement asking for criminalization of verbal pronouncement of divorce, Council of Islamic Ideology could simply have asked for the provision of the family laws to be better enforced and practiced. Such a move is necessitated by the problems that have been arising in recent years owing to men not registering divorces and women who believe themselves being divorcee being accused of adultery and fornication under the Zina and Hudud ordinance. Some of the recommendations from my side as per the family laws in Pakistan is it is important that every divorce has to be registered, oral ones as well, officially registered, and record is needed. Other things for subsequent legal decisions and inheritance processes. Women and men should have a right of equal inheritance on the principle mentioned in Section 4 of the Muslim Law Ordinance 1961. Spouses should also inherit from the share of their predeceased parents on the death of a parent-in-law. Some of the case studies in law and challenges faced by the lawmakers as per the report of UNICEF and many other reports, 11 to 15 years of the age and 32% of ages 6 to 10, as per the report, 43% of the children rights were 11 to 15 years in Pakistan, and 32% from ages 6 to 10 years. The Pakistan Demographic Health Survey also states in section that on teenage fertility, almost half of the girls of the 15 to 18 years are already pregnant to have a baby and take care of it. The exact number of child marriages in Pakistan below the age of 13 is not available, but it's in practice, and it's not only in the Muslim community but also in the other minorities, Hindus, Christians, and Sikh minority existing in Pakistan. Child marriages are strongly connected with the anti-women practices or the customary practices which is happening in Pakistan, like wani, which is a tradition, customary tradition where a girl was given in a dispute to marry off with the other family. And then there is another exchange marriages within the family, which we call it a vata sata marriages, was also very common. The young girls were given in marriage. Child Marriages Restraint Amendment Act Bill 2015, which was demanding prohibiting underage marriages, was termed as un-Islamic by the Council of Islamic Ideology very recently. And the mover of the bill, the lady who, the parliamentarian who moved that bill, was called a blasphemous. Even they declared Supreme Court of Pakistan blasphemous for such acts. And she was pushed to take her back the bill, and she faced a lot of opposition inside the house, and those parliamentarians who supported her faced a lot of repercussions after that. So the major hurdle in Pakistan is Council of Islamic Ideology, and we face the same same resistance in domestic violence bill. You might heard recently there is a lot of voices raised against the domestic violence bill, why they moved that, why they put a tracker thing for men, and men has to leave the house. So there are many resistance inside the society, but the good thing is government took initiative, and they're not taking care of what they are saying, and they're moving far ahead. But still in child marriages age, whenever the debate initiated in Pakistan, so the parallel, the same support they were getting from Afghanistan and other borders for underage marriages, which is a greater challenge for us. 2 provincial assemblies of Pakistan state provinces passed legislation on child marriages. Sindh passed and they standardized the age of 18, but in Punjab still it is 16, and many other provinces the practice is there is no legislation, and the maximum the practice is that they are following 13 to 14 years of age. And unfortunately in Pakistan since 1947 we don't have any laws to register the minority marriages, and there are many cases of conversion of Hindu girls who were forcefully converted on the name of marriages, and there some cases from Christian minority as well. Recently, Government of Pakistan has done some work, and luckily at the federal level we are successful processing the Hindu Marriage Act, but still we are struggling for the other minorities act in Pakistan, and they are the vulnerability of those minorities being doubled. And in the case of women with disabilities, more triple in these cases. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabia, for not forcing me to give you this 2 minutes slip right on time. Thank you so much. Our last speaker is our partner from Senegal, Julie Cissé, the director of GIPSOIR, Groupe d'Initiative pour le Progrès Social, who's going to take us to Senegal, looking at the family laws and the reforms that have taken place there. Julie is going to speak in French, and I will try to interpret simultaneously. Tu fais des pauses.
Oui, merci Lina. Bonsoir tout le monde. Je vais en 10 minutes essayer de parler de mon pays, du Sénégal.
So in 10 minutes I'm going to try to talk about Senegal.
À entendre mes 3 sœurs, je dirais d'emblée que la société sénégalaise a conscience de ce qui se passe dans le monde en pleine mutation.
Listening to the three panelists before me, I can say that the society in Senegal is going through a transformation, a mutation.
Et les femmes se situent au cœur de ce débat pour la modernité.
And women are at the heart of this social debate on modernity.
Je voudrais parler un peu du contexte. C'est un pays à 95% de musulmans.
I want to talk about the context. Senegal, the population of Senegal is 95% Muslim.
Avec un premier président en 1960 catholique.
The first, and currently the first Catholic president.
Mais soutenu par la plus grande communauté religieuse, celle des Mourides.
But he is supported by the largest religious community, that of the Mulids.
Donc, 6 ans après l'indépendance, on a commencé à parler de ce code de la famille.
Almost 6 years after independence, we started discussing family laws.
Alors, il fallait concilier cet aspect laïcité, cet aspect laïque, et les coutumes, ainsi que le droit moderne français, parce qu'on a une colonie française.
So the idea was to bridge secularism, customary law, and French law.
Il y a eu beaucoup de débats, mais en 1972, on a eu le premier code.
There was a lot of social dialogue, debate around this, but we had the first personal status law in 1972.
Ce qui est important de noter avec ce code de 1972, la plus grande communauté qui avait soutenu le président a dit que ce code ne le concernait pas. Donc, dans toute l'étendue de son territoire, Touba, et les zones rurales, le code n'est pas appliqué. Il est même ignoré.
What is ironical is that the community that had supported the president said that it's not concerned by the family law. So in all the majority of the areas actually under control of these communities, this code is not implemented.
Et le président de la Cour suprême avait tiré sur la sonnette d'alarme pour dire qu'il n'y a pas 2 parties, 3 au Sénégal. Il y a un Sénégal et le code devait être dans toute l'étendue du territoire.
And the Supreme Court said this is not on. We don't have several countries. It's one country, and this family code has to be applied all over the country.
L'État a fermé les yeux.
However, the state actually looked the other way.
Et un fait important que les féministes avaient à l'époque brandi, c'est des femmes qui étaient au devant des médias pour dire qu'elles étaient contre la polygamie. Alors c'était une brèche pour tous ces chefs religieux et ces islamistes qui disaient, voyez, c'est ces femmes modernes qui veulent mettre en danger le pays.
And actually what happened was that feminist activists spoke out against polygamy, which as a result the clergy, as usual in other contexts, said these are the modern westernized women who want to destroy our country.
Alors ça fait beaucoup de dégâts. Mais les féministes ont recentré le combat. En fait, le combat, ce n'était pas contre la polygamie, mais c'était pour une application du code de la famille.
So feminists mobilized around this struggle. The struggle was not particularly against polygamy, it was for the implementation of the family law.
Parce que la plus jeune génération, elle était déjà dans un ménage polygame. Celle qui avait 30-40 ans. Donc il y avait cette déchirure entre les féministes qui avait affaibli un peu le mouvement.
The problem was that within feminists there was a rift because those who were the generation of 30 to 40 years of age were already in polygamous relations.
Donc on a essayé de progresser avec ces contraintes.
So we tried to progress despite these constraints.
On a reçu notre coup dur en 1998 avec cette loi que le FUNEAC avait déclarée limitant la polygamie à 2 épouses, que le Sénégal a rejeté d'abord.
We had another law in 1998 with a law. It's actually a surprising law. That UNFPA was proposed, which was to limit polygamy to only 2. Bigamy.
Les islamistes ont eu un autre point fort pour dire voilà ce qu'on disait. Elles sont instrumentalisées par l'Occident. Et cette loi est passée à l'Assemblée, elle a été rejetée par la majorité.
So even this law, the Islamists rejected it, they called it westernized, it went through parliament and was rejected.
Mais les féministes ne se sont pas désarmés. On s'est mieux organisé, on a accentué la lutte sur des points forts.
However, the feminists did not give up, they mobilized again on certain key points.
Parce que la question fondamentale du code de la famille au Sénégal, c'était cette autorité parentale qu'exigeaient les féministes. Parce que l'autorité était paternelle. Donc c'est le monsieur qui avait tous ses droits, qui faisait tout ce qu'il voulait.
So the feminists in the country focused on one specific demand, to have parental authority as opposed to father authority in the family, to have a shared parental authority.
Donc la stratégie a été d'asseoir une large coalition.
So the strategies that they used was to form a large coalition,
en intégrant les médias,
integrating the media in this large coalition,
en allant vers les chefs religieux modérés pour expliquer la justesse.
And targeting what they call moderate religious leaders to explain, the rationale of their demands.
Presque après 10 ans, ça a donné des fruits parce qu'on a eu entre 1998 et 2008 beaucoup de points positifs pour les femmes.
And this bore fruit because between 1998 and 2008 there was a lot of partial positive reforms.
Mais nous avons un problème au Sénégal. Les lois sont très bien faites, nous ratifions toutes les conventions internationales.
But we have other problems in Senegal. The laws currently are well written, well formulated. We have ratified all sorts of international conventions.
Mais nous ne les appliquons pas. Dans la réalité des faits, le Sénégal, si vous faites un micro-trottoir, peut-être 20-25% des Sénégalais vous parleront de ce code de la famille. Le reste, c'est...
However, these laws, on the one hand, they are not applied. On the other hand, very few people know about them. If you ask people haphazardly, you will find that hardly 20% of the people know about these laws.
Parce que c'est un pays où les chefferies religieuses sont très puissantes et l'État est obligé d'être en partenariat avec elles pour gouverner en paix. Donc, ce qui met en péril un peu ces acquis démocratiques.
And this is essentially because this is a country where religious chiefs, as they're called, are very, very powerful, and the state has to flirt with them, has to keep them happy.
Cependant, il y a noté qu'au niveau du code, avec les réformes entre 1998 et 2008, nous avons noté des acquis certains. Par rapport à l'autorité, elle est maintenant parentale, elle n'est plus paternelle. C'est un acquis fondamental.
So amongst these gains, these essential gains which were made in the reform of family code between 1998 and 2008, one is finally the code insists on parental authority and not father's authority.
Une autre loi importante pour la femme travailleuse, elle a maintenant la possibilité de prendre en charge ses enfants et son mari en cas de maladie.
Okay. Dans la sécurité sociale.
Oui.
Another gain was at the level of social security, where working women can become financially responsible for their families.
Maintenant, par rapport à cette polygamie, il est à noter qu'au niveau du code, il y a certains articles qui disent clairement que dans un ménage polygame, le mari a la responsabilité de gérer, s'il a 4 femmes, de gérer équitablement. Mais dans la pratique, c'est une loi qui n'est pas allée jusqu'au bout. Donc les hommes trichent encore avec cette polygamie.
So, in terms of polygamy, the law says that the husband must manage his relation, whatever that means, equitably amongst the 4 wives. However, in practice, this rarely happens.
Non. La mode au Sénégal, c'est des maris qui cherchent des femmes un peu nanties et se font entretenir par les 4 femmes. Donc, à coup de rôle, chaque femme a à 100% en charge les aspects économiques de la famille. Et l'homme, il fait rien.
And now, what is a real fashion in Senegal is for men to marry women who are well-to-do, and actually to be taken care of by 4 wives, 4 well-to-do wives.
Et il se fait entretenir par ces 4 femmes. Donc c'est une mode et malheureusement c'est ça, on vit ça.
It's a fashion, but it's the reality of what we're living in Senegal right now.
Les femmes supportent tout le poids économique du ménage.
Women are totally in charge of the economic burden of their households.
La scolarisation des enfants,
So schooling for children,
la santé,
health,
et même pour la nourriture, c'est la femme, et même pour le loyer. La femme, si elle ne veut pas être avec l'autre co-épouse, c'est elle qui en charge son.
that's interesting. Even food and rent. And what she's saying about rent is interesting. So if a woman is in a polygamous relationship, but she doesn't want to live with the other co-wives, she will have to rent another place. She will have to pay for an independent house.
Et le monsieur, quand il a son tour chez cette femme, il vient, c'est le roi, on lui fait des poulets, la bonne bouffe, il fait rien.
And husbands basically do nothing. They go from wife to wife, and they're taken care of, and there's all the,
C'est difficile, mais c'est ça. Donc, par rapport à cet article, nous sentons que l'État triche un peu. Il n'est pas allé jusqu'au bout de ce qui devrait être dans cette loi. C'est-à-dire le contenu, il l'a fait à moitié.
So actually, the state is cheating with this law. It hasn't gone to the very end. It's looking the other way in terms of how men abuse it.
Une autre loi par rapport à la dot, parce que pour demander la main de la femme, il faut donner une dot. Et dans l'article, il est clairement dit que cette dot est exclusivement donnée à la femme. Elle en fait ce qu'elle veut. Maintenant, au cas où la femme voudrait divorcer, l'homme, pour la bloquer, réclame l'intégralité de la dot. Même après 20 ans, 30 ans de mariage, rends-moi ma dot et je te rends ta liberté. C'est pas juste.
So also in relation to marriage, men have to pay a dowry to a prospective wife, and the law says that this dowry, whatever it is, money or otherwise, is actually becomes her own property, and she has the right to do with it whatever she wants. But when men want, but in case of marriage, if women want to divorce, men want to take back this dowry, otherwise they will not divorce. So this is again in violation of the little things that are in the law.
Donc c'est un cas que beaucoup de femmes vivent. Elles sont retenues dans les liens du mariage contre leur gré parce qu'elles n'arrivent pas économiquement à rassembler cette somme pour la retrouver.
So this is the reality of many women. They cannot get out. They cannot leave a marital relation because they cannot afford to. They do not have the means to buy their freedom.
Et l'État ne fait absolument rien.
And the state does nothing.
Maintenant, la stratégie des organisations des femmes, on a interpellé officiellement le ministre de la Justice pour que l'État tranche ce débat. La femme ne doit rien rembourser.
One of their strategy as feminist organization is to target the Minister of Justice to make sure that women can leave their husband without having to pay back their dowry.
Et un juge m'a chuchoté à l'oreille et m'a dit, Julie, il faut que vous y allez doucement. Vous savez ce que c'est que le Sénégal. On ne peut pas vous donner raison, mais vous avez raison.
And one of the judges told her discreetly, you know how Senegal is, take it easy, you're right, but you cannot have this.
C'est un problème.
So this is a
Donc,
problem.
je voudrais, Lina, terminer par quelques stratégies.
So she wants to conclude with some strategies for action.
En tant que féministes activistes, nous sommes conscients d'une chose.
As feminist activists, we are conscious about one important matter.
Il faut vulgariser le code de la famille.
We need to make the family code accessible, understandable to women.
Et en langue nationale.
And we have to translate it into local languages.
ça, les femmes vont se l'approprier.
So women can become familiar with that code,
Surtout en zone rurale.
especially in rural areas.
En fait, des thématiques d'animation pour que les femmes puissent vraiment se sentir.
So, and use this family code to plan for awareness raising workshops in rural areas so that women feel at ease in using this code.
Nous avons aussi un réseau de journalistes qui sont formés, sensibilisés et qui sont maintenant des activistes par rapport à ce code.
We have also been able to work with our own network of media people who we have trained, who have become sensitive to the key issues in relation to this code and who have become activists.
Il faut continuer la formation, mais avoir des partenariats dynamiques avec ces médias.
We will be continuing these actions, and we will be looking towards building effective partnership relations with local media.
Car ils peuvent jouer un rôle positif,
Because as you know, the media can play a positive role,
mais aussi un rôle très négatif.
but also a very negative role as well.
Je vais fermer par cet exemple.
So, and she's going to end with this example.
Une association sœur a porté sur elle plaidoyer sur l'avortement médicalisé.
She's going to end with this example. A sister organization, women organization, started a campaign on medical abortions.
Donc c'est l'association des juristes sénégalaises.
The Association of Senegalese Jurists. Ça se dit?
Oui, des juristes sénégalais. Donc, à mon avis, elles ne se sont pas assez. Elles n'ont pas assez impliqué les autres organisations.
They did not engage other organizations in this campaign.
Et elles sont allées voir le président du groupe parlementaire majoritaire qui leur a dit, bon, cette loi, vous la menez, on va la à l'Assemblée.
And they went and met with the head of the largest parliamentary coalition who told them, yes, go ahead, we will support you with the slow petition.
Quand la présidente de l'époque m'en a parlé, je lui ai dit, je n'ai pas confiance à ce monsieur, parce qu'il fait des sorties contre les femmes. Comment tout d'un coup il peut vouloir porter l'avortement médicalisé?
When the head of this association came to consult with Julie about this, she told them, we cannot trust this guy. He has been very vocal against women. We cannot trust him with something that important.
Et ce qui s'est passé, le gouvernement a utilisé les médias. Et pendant 15 jours, ça a été un lynchage médiatique. C'est ce, parce qu'on a fait des émissions interactives en direct pour dire aux Sénégalais, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de l'avortement médicalisé? Et pendant 15 jours, c'est des Sénégalais qui s'exprimaient négativement.
And actually the government was very vicious. They used the media for almost a couple of weeks to talk about this, to ask ordinary people, what do you think about abortion? And of course everybody rejected abortion. So they launched a counter-campaign against the campaign for medical abortion.
Alors on a redonné aux islamistes et aux lobbyistes qui sont contre les féministes une occasion de jeter encore de la pierre dans le travail.
And this gave fuel to Islamists, to all the ministers and parliamentarians who were against this law, to actually say, you know, people don't want it. We're going to stop here, and thank you so much, Julia. We have 10 minutes. We would like to open the floor for questions, discussions, comments. May I just because I want to say it before anybody leaves, yes. We would like to invite you, we're going to continue this discussion tomorrow at the new school with also some wonderful panelists. We will have a one-day session from 10 a.m. to 3. Our session is called When Home is Where the Harm Is, and it will look at family law reform and gender-based violence. You are all invited. We have wonderful speakers tomorrow. And with this, I'm going to open the floor first, Mahnaz, and then our colleague from Orat. Mahnaz.
I just have a quick question. You don't have to grab mic, do you? No? Okay. quick question. We just need a number, yes or no, from each of you, because the WLP campaign that's coming up is tying the family law to violence. Okay, so these two questions, actually 4 questions with yes or no or a number are to show that. So could each of you please say, in the legal family laws of the country right now, what is the minimum age of marriage for a girl? How many wives can a man have? Can a woman travel without her husband's permission? Can a woman hold a job without her husband's permission? Yes or no, and the number from each of you.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Soraida. So legal family laws, what is the minimum age of marriage for boys?
It's 15. It's 15. 15. But yes, but there is no yes and no. It's complicated because in the law something, in the application is something, and the culture, and then the decipheration of what's this. How many wives? The law says 4. Okay. The Sharia says 4. The law doesn't say anything. But when he applies what the Sharia says, the law doesn't stop. And we have a decision made by the head of the judges, of the Sharia judges. He's asking everyone, before getting married, the second wife should prove that he told the first one. So many marriages, second marriages are being stopped by this way. So it's, travel, yes, women travel, it's yes and no, because in the law, there is nothing said that the man cannot allow her to travel, or she cannot travel without his consent. In the Sharia, or in the decipheration of the Sharia rules, yes, she has to get a permit. Again, in the job, the law doesn't say anything. In the Sharia, doesn't say anything, but there is something that says she cannot go out of the house without his permission. But the Palestinian labor law gives permission to woman, and in the Sharia says not going out without his permission. There is a contradiction. So the practice is left to him, how he is educated and how he wants to do.
The minimum age is 18, but as I said, the judge could permit the girl to be married from the age 15 to 18. Okay. About the travel, previously we used to have even the husband should sign the passport for the woman. She cannot leave without his consent. Now it's becoming better, but if she leaves, as she said, the Sharia law, if she leaves the house without his permission, or he says no and she leaves the house, then she's in trouble. And if they are divorced, or she's at her father's house, not having relations with the husband, then he could consider her out of his permission, and then he can not to pay her alimony. Okay. As for the work, it's as well. She cannot leave the house without his permission, and if he says no, she cannot work. But they got married, and it does not say anything. She was working, and this shows that he blesses her work.
Donc, pour l'âge de mariage, on a eu un acquis, c'est à 16 ans.
There was actually a gain in terms of minimum age of marriage, which is 16 pour les deux, 16 for both boys and girls.
Mais il y a un mois, il y a un rapport qui est sorti. Il y a des pochettes. Les régions les plus reculées, à 12 ans, 11 ans, on donne un mariage.
However, there was a report that was out recently, particularly in remote areas, there are several cases of marriages at 12 and 13.
Pour les deux autres questions, je dois dire que le Sénégal, par rapport aux pays qui nous entourent, on est en avance. Hein. La femme, elle est libérée. elle ne demande pas la permission pour...
Senegal is more, relatively more advanced than neighboring countries, so women do not require men's permission, either for traveling or for work.
Maintenant, avec ma religion, il m'est arrivé une année où je devais aller faire un mois au Bénin, subir une formation. Alors, qu'est-ce que mon mari a fait? Il est allé voir mon père qui nous a donné un mariage pour lui dire Julie est une féministe et ne m'a même pas demandé la permission. Ça a été un débat, mais je suis partie faire ma formation parce que je travaille, j'ai en responsabilité ma famille, ma mère. Je ne me suis pas laissée...
Now, in her case, she had to travel once for a month to Benin for a training. And her husband went to her father. He told him, your daughter is a feminist, she's traveling for a month, she didn't even ask for my permission. But she went to Benin nevertheless.
Chaque femme prend ses responsabilités. Au Sénégal, maintenant, les choses sont très claires et les femmes avancent. Maintenant, le revers de la médaille, le juge, j'ai un ami juge qui me dit, Julie, il faut que vous appesantiez sur le taux excessif de divorce. Il y a beaucoup de divorces au Sénégal, mais les femmes veulent clairement avancer.
Women really want to advance in Senegal. One of her friends, a judge, was telling her that the rate of divorce in Senegal is becoming quite high. What about à propos de la polygamie?
La polygamie, officiellement, c'est 4 pour les musulmans. Pour nos parents chrétiens, c'est 1.
So 4 to 1. Officially 4 for Muslims and 1 for the poor Christians.
Si elle a la chance de venir au Sénégal, je vais lui montrer des hommes qui en ont 5, 7.
However, there are men who have 5, 7 wives.
C'est compliqué.
Well, as per in Pakistan, there's a lot of confusion. As per the constitution, for boy it's 16 years of age and for girl it's 14. So we need constitutional amendments as well. Pakistan ratified CRC, so according to that it has to be 18. After 18 constitutional amendment in Pakistan, provinces have autonomy and they can legislate for women and girls and many other issues. 2 of the provinces recently they legislate child marriages, but in Sindh they are more progressive and they did it at 18 years of age. But in the biggest province of Punjab, it's still 16. And the other provinces like KP, the northern area, and the Balochistan, still it's 13, 12, and as per Sharia, it's puberty. So if the girl reaches to puberty, she has to marry, and they take a plea of Sharia all the time. Laws itself in Pakistan is very flawed. We, in 2011, we brought that Anti-Women Practices Act, which was addressing the forced marriages, early marriages, but they won't define the age of the child. And once the marriage is consummated, the judges have the authority to decide, and mostly they decide that if they have a relationship, they send the girl with the boy usually. And mostly it was in the cases of abduction, they take the girl away and they got married, and forcefully in front of the courts they say that we got married. So there are many confusion in the law. But so far, Sindh province has progress in this, but implementation is the biggest challenge again in Pakistan because of the insensitive judiciary as well and at the police level.
I'm so sorry, I can't take a question. The gentleman in uniform now told me that we have to leave the room.